in my hands like it's no thing. Jacket same color as the smoke stains. Pray to God that I never grow old, but I also pray to God that I grow wings. Damn, can't lie, today was a good day. Fell fly, new cool kicks and a kick-ass ride. And I kick it with my dogs, we just trying to get by. Just a couple of punks, all trying to get by. Just a couple of teens, all trying to survive. Live to the max, cause you don't live it twice. Couple green thumbs, all high as a cat.
And welcome back to another episode of Life to the Max. I'm your host, the Quadfather, aka Maximilian Gross, and today I have the CEO of NanoVibronix.
NanoVibronix.
NanoVibronix. So NanoVibronix, and his name is, drumroll please, Brian Murfee.
Thanks, Max.
How are you, man?
I'm great. It's good to be here. And by the way, I first thing I've got to say is thank you for your service.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you for supporting, man. I really do.
You're great. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, we've been talking about it for a while.
Definitely.
And it's an honor to have you here because you have a lot of like insight on like things that could help people with spinal cord injuries. So I'm super excited to get through it.
Well, I'm sure that I can't beat Tim Terrell's podcast, but I'll do the best I can.
Did you listen to it?
I did.
Yeah, he's quite a guy, man.
Oh my God, he's amazing.
Yeah,
he's an amazing guy.
He can. He led the show for that one.
Well, and by the way, that's without coffee or any stimulant.
I know. He was like he's a no nonsense, hard nosed defender, and I'm like, damn, Tim. And then we see the clips of him, and he's just wrecking himself. Like, I'm just
how he's still upright, I have no idea. So, I guess to all your viewers,
yeah,
if you haven't seen that podcast, take a look at it.
Yeah,
Tim Terrell is one of a kind, no doubt about it.
He is one of a kind. But so I kind of want to bring it back to your beginnings. So where you came from. So where did you grow up?
So I grew up in Morton Grove, north side of Chicago, middle class family. It's funny that my dad encouraged me to be a manager at McDonald's, and that would kick off my career. I elected to go more of an entrepreneurial route, and it really I just got into sales. I mean, I literally went to college only to get a degree so that I could walk in and interview for a sales job. I knew that that's where I wanted to be. That was my life's mission, and the rest is history.
Yeah. So when you had your first sale, was that just like a drug? Was it amazing?
No doubt about it.
Yeah.
And I was so bad at it right in the beginning. Nobody trained me. You have to, if you're in sales, you're either born for it or you're not going to do well in sales. You've got to have the instincts and things like that, but you've got to be trained.
Yeah.
And unfortunately I was thrown to the wolves very early, and but learned on my own and developed my own style and ended up excelling.
Can you elaborate when you said you were thrown to the wolves?
So my first sales job was for a medical device company out of Colorado. And I took over Northern California. So I was their first rep, and this was part of their grand plan to go direct reps nationwide. And I sat there, and my first customer, I had features and benefits on a page on a piece of paper, and I went down through the features and benefits, and there was really no open discussion. Obviously with sales, you've got to connect with somebody, and the connection was not there. So being thrown to the wolves, meaning that I had no sales training. It was all done off the cuff.
Okay.
So in that first meeting, I realized that no, this just really went poorly. And from there, developed my own style and just learned how to dance somebody into a corner where they couldn't get out and had to buy my product.
Okay.
And,
So when you said you developed your own style, are you talking about like that list of questions they give you? Like, is that what you're talking about? Because I know there's companies that say like telemarketers. They like say, okay, if we reel them in, like we have to like follow the guidelines of like the questions. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, a little bit. I think my success was out of learning their business, understanding what they were up against, understanding their business down to the product level, and then offering a solution. I later figured out that in a sale, nothing is sold without a problem. So you've got to find a problem that they have. Then you've got to make the problem bigger than life. And then you've got the solution to their problem. So that was really how I kind of created the way that I sold, was just to understand them, understand the problem, highlight the problem, make the problem bigger than life, and then offering a simple solution. And it works. It works today, still today.
That's amazing, man. So what led you down to the path of medical technology?
Well, I won't lie, money. Back in the 80s, medical was the place to be, no doubt about it. It was technology was growing. The market was always going to be there. It didn't matter. We were recession-proof. I also wanted to help people. And I had to really believe in the product in order to, and believe that it was going to help somebody in order for me to be passionate about it and really believe it and sell it effectively.
So you physically created the product?
I didn't physically create it. No.
Okay.
I was always an employee, and other than a couple of entrepreneurial stints, but the bottom line is that I worked for medical device companies, and in sales, it's the easiest place to get promoted because it's very quantifiable. Your quota is X, you do X plus whatever, and you overachieve, you're going to get noticed. On the downside of that, if you're under quota, you're always going to be noticed as well.
So let me ask you a question. I had a guy on here, and he told me if you're this big time salesperson, you're always replaceable. Do you think that's a true statement?
I don't think so. On the depending on what you're selling, but products don't sell themselves. And if you excel, I don't see that you're replaceable.
Okay.
So
what do you think sets apart a good salesman from an exceptional salesman?
I learned something through college. So I had 44.
Where'd you go to college?
University of Southern Illinois University.
Oh, yeah, let's go.
Salukis. So played football there.
Really?
First year.
Nice.
And then I quit and started the boxing team.
Oh.
So I ended up having 44 amateur fights total. I won 42, lost 2. So, but in my first fight, I fought in the Golden Gloves in Springfield, Illinois. And I got knocked out in the first round.
What year was this?
Oh, God, you're going to age me. 1976.
How old were you?
18,
Wow.
19.
Wow.
So you guys, you weren't even thought of in 1976. I get that.
Yeah.
But I thought I was all that, and I go to this Golden Gloves tournament. I get in the ring, and within 30 seconds, I'm on my back. I don't know what state I'm in. I don't know what my name is. Nothing. So I backed up from that fight. We go back to school, and I thought, I could either hang it up or figure out what to do going forward. And I figured out something that has really served me well throughout in my entire career, my entire life. And that is that you got to be good at one thing. So in the boxing ring, what I figured out was I could throw a left hook like nobody else. And in amateurs, nobody ever saw it coming. My next 11 fights, I had knockouts in the first round, all with a left hook. So I perfected the left hook. I went on to win another 30 fights after that. I only lost my last fight because I broke my hand in the second round when I put him down. It was the semifinal before the national championship for college. So my point is that you always have to have a strength that you can go back to. So in other words, what is it that you're really, really good at? What is it in your sales pitch, in your career, in anything that you do? You got to pull the left hook out.
Yeah.
And if it's been perfected, you're always going to succeed because you know that you can't lose with that left hook. Whatever it may be. It may be, something totally different. That's just an analogy, but it worked. It served me well because it was something that I was insistent upon perfecting.
Is this like the selling point? Like the left hook? Is that the selling point?
So, like in sales, if your strength is building a relationship, always build a relationship. If your strength is selling the product, sell the product. If your strength is selling the financials on a product, sell the financials. But you have to be able to perfect something and always go back to it.
So Ryan Murphy, what is your left hook in sales?
I would say understanding the problem and then making the problem bigger than life.
All right.
Create a problem, sell a solution.
No doubt about it.
Absolutely.
That's, very simply said, but very accurate.
Okay. So let's talk about your company, NanoVibronix. Okay. What exactly is it?
So we're a public company, traded under the symbol NAOV, traded on NASDAQ, and we're based in both Tyler, Texas, as well as Haifa, Israel. Haifa is about 20 miles from the Lebanon border. We manufacture primarily 2 products. We've got a couple of other products, but our 2 primary products, they use one platform technology. It's called surface acoustic wave. It's you've heard about ultrasound.
Yes.
So ultrasound in a clinic is very high energy. It's used for pain in a different frequency or waveform. It can be used to image an unborn baby. We use a different frequency. We use a 93 kilohertz wave, which is low-level, low-frequency ultrasound. And it's applied to two products called PainShield and UroShield. On the UroShield, it's applied externally.
What is UroShield? What is UroShield?
UroShield is a product that's used with a catheter.
Okay, so I have a suprapubic catheter. So
Suprapubic or
Indwell.
urinary catheter, either way.
Okay.
It sends a low-level, low-frequency ultrasonic wave down the catheter. You would never detect it. And what it does is it actually serves as, it creates like a trampoline effect on the catheter. And it prevents bacteria from docking onto the catheter, which is the first step in a urinary tract infection.
Wow.
So if you can prevent that first step, what normally occurs is the bacteria docks onto the catheter. It then creates a colony. The colony is a number of bacteria that colonize together. And then it creates a biofilm, and the biofilm is resistant to antibiotics. So what we're trying to do, and we've been effective at doing it, is to stop that first step in the cascade of events that occur that lead to a urinary tract infection.
So I don't know if you know this about me, but about 2 years ago, I went into septic shock. I don't know if my father told you, but
He did.
I went into septic shock, and it was because of a urinary tract infection. I almost died. I almost lost my life. My organs were failing, and they were able to, get me better, which, thank God to Sherman Hospital. Shout out to them, you know what I mean? But if I was wearing a UroShield, do you think the possibility of that could have decreased?
It would have eliminated the events that occur that led to your urinary tract infection.
Yeah.
My mother actually died of a urinary tract infection 5 years ago.
Jesus.
So, and the most painful thing was that because the FDA hadn't cleared us, I couldn't even put the product on my mother.
That's terrible.
So there's, a little bit of a passion there that wouldn't normally exist given those events.
Well, rest in peace to your mother, and if the FDA is listening, freaking allow UroShield to be on the shelves. We need it. I need it.
Yeah.
If that could have stopped me from going into septic shock, if that could stop a lot of people, because that is the leading factor of people dying in spinal cord injuries. It's either a pressure ulcer or it's a urinary tract infection, and they die from septic shock. And we are still human. So give us a chance to live with the products that you're creating.
Right. It's such an amazing product that the most use is in the UK, and it's reimbursed in the UK. But I just need to in this next administration work my way up again and try to get the FDA to recognize it. And we had temporary approval under kind of COVID guidelines, and we just lost the registration a couple of months ago.
I remember you actually giving me the product, and you saying Max, use this, and I had to ask my doctor.
Sure.
My doctor was like, yeah, we can use it, and then I remember you said you got in with the VA, and I, for everybody listening, I get my care through the VA, and I was super excited for you, and now hearing this backlash with the FDA, that's absolutely like terrible.
Yeah, it's it sucks to be honest with you. Now the other product that we do a lot with the VA is called PainShield. PainShield uses the same technology. It's that surface acoustic wave, low level, low frequency ultrasound delivered through just a small little patch.
Okay.
And then the device, the same device in size that you saw, about the size of a cell phone, just fits into your pocket. It's an opioid alternative. And the intent of that product is to cure what's causing the pain, not just like an Advil, not curing the symptom and then your pain is going to come back the minute the Advil wears off. All these products that are on the market are all symptom oriented. They don't really address what's causing the pain. And what we're doing is sending a low level, low frequency ultrasonic wave into that area of pain, whether it's muscle, tendon, nerve, and it increases blood flow. First of all, it's a very powerful anti-inflammatory.
Okay.
So you get the inflammation down. And then from there, the product increases blood flow, increases oxygenation to that part of the body, and it's angiogenic, which means that it effectively encourages the body to grow new capillaries, which increases the blood flow to that area.
So as a salesman, how do you know all this scientific, like medical?
It's just, it's not, this product is pretty simple.
Doesn't sound simple.
No, you've seen the product, you've seen the other product. It's the same size, it's just an on and off button, and you put the patch on where the pain is. And
the patch where their pain is that like putting a Band-Aid on, or is that like actually helping?
No, it's about the size of a large Band-Aid.
I meant like metaphorically. So is that like putting a Band-Aid on, or is that like, because like I think about this. Okay, Big Pharma wants me to take my Oxycontin and all this stuff, and I don't take opioids anymore because of the septic shock, but they want me to take that because it's just going to help me with my pain in quotation marks. Do you know what I mean? Yours is basically trying to slap a Band-Aid on it rather than having people come back for refills.
Yeah, it's not, well, the Band-Aid would be temporary, but this is intended. Now, it doesn't work on everybody. It's
Is it a cumulative therapy, or does it just it works as you put the patch on and it works while the device is working?
So the device works for 6.5 hours before it's got to be charged again. Mm-hmm. It's what we call dose related. So dose related means the more you use it, the better it works.
So it's not like opioids. It's the exact opposite.
It's the exact opposite.
Wow.
So, for instance, I had a shoulder problem, and I wore one of the versions of PainShield, which has two transducers, and it worked incredibly well. And I mean, I don't know what I would do personally without it because I use it so often. Between my back, my shoulder, my knee. So it's...
Is it for muscular pain or nerve pain or
it's
all of the above?
It's indicated for muscle, tendon, and contracture. But it does work on well, I got to be careful because the FDA requires me to say that.
Yeah.
But I've had good experiences with nerves.
Personally.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing because I have fibromyalgia. I think that's what it's called.
Fibromyalgia.
Fibromyalgia. I always get it wrong. Always.
It's a tough word. I'm not gonna lie.
Fibromyalgia. I have that in my it's like trigeminal neuralgia or whatever in my like under my jaw, and it's just these pins and needle pain, and I've had that since 2018.
Well,
it's constant.
I'll get you a PainShield.
All right, well, we'll see.
Can't hurt.
We'll see if it works, man. You sold me.
It's an amazing product. I mean, the VA is just eating it up. We've got probably 50 of the 150 VA hospitals prescribing. We were just approved for active military, so it's doing very well in the VA.
So in your 25 years of senior sales, operations, and general management experience in medical device and medical technology companies, how have you seen this industry evolve over time?
Oof. Big pharma. Big pharma gets bigger, and that's probably the biggest change. Well, not change, but progression of the industry. Big pharma is more powerful now than they've ever been. Medical device, there's just some amazing technologies out there. However, there's this saying, more than one great technologies have gone broke because they couldn't sell it. So the reality is you still got to get somebody out there to tell them the story. And it's just like when you brought the UroShield into your doc, she hadn't heard anything about it.
No.
So she was reluctant to use it. She had to read the 30 studies that were on the product that showed that it was effective. Doctors don't have that kind of time. It's we've got a study going on right now at the University of Michigan.
Okay.
And it's a 306 patient study, pivotal study. It's and when a big institution like University of Michigan with that many patients and they draw a conclusion on the product, they will be able to just go down and look at the results. And every other study we've done has had miraculous outcomes.
That's amazing. That's amazing. You know what really strikes me is like the progression of technology from, so you said the 70s, you were like, did you ever think you would have a little computer in your hand, like as a little tablet, and like the tablet wasn't even a thing back then,
Yeah.
Do you ever like,
Oh, I know.
so like with the AI and technology, like do you think that's helped Big Pharma a lot?
A great example of that is I left the company to come to work as CEO of NanoVibronix, and their technology was placenta technology.
Stem cells.
So, no, actually, it was dehydrated. So they actually killed the stem cells, but it treats wounds. So, but what they found was that when placenta is placed into a wound, it encourages the stem cells from your own body to hyperproduce and then be drawn to that one area. Well, to your point, 20 years ago, who thought we'd be using placenta to heal wounds?
Right.
And be able to commercialize it and put it on the shelf for 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy stuff.
Well, it's amazing that they find out through like studies and like constant like research for people like me and people in other situations. Like I'm hoping to God that I walk one day again. I do my therapy. I do everything right. I've talked to a few scientists and doctors that have promising studies, but again, the FDA always gets in the way, man.
Why
Always.
is that? Why does the FDA?
I feel like, you know how women say your body, it's their body, their choice? I feel like it's my body, my choice. Like, if I want to do this study that has good merit, very good, like, merit on, like what it's supposed to do, why can't I do it? Why are there laws against that?
There are stem cell companies out there that are on the cusp of being able to help you. And, you know, Adam.
Yeah.
Adam is connected to one of them.
He's a chiropractor.
He is. But some of the technologies right now are just, they're amazing. And, you know, it when you talk to them, it sounds like they're mixing a cocktail for a specific injury or a specific indication. But, you know, I don't know where that's going to lead, but it's certainly not going backwards.
Do you think that medical technologies, like companies and big pharma, are like working together? Or do you think that there's a bit more of like they're pushing back on each other? Is there beef?
I think they're pushing back on each other.
Really?
You know, until there's scientific research and the FDA recognizes, you know, there is something within the FDA called Section 361. Section 361 is where it's human cells and tissue that is minimally manipulated. So you can get a product approved, and stem cells are not illegal. They fall primarily, typically, under Section 361. So Section 361 would allow them to bring it to market, but they can't make any claims, or their claims have to be minimal. So
the FDA dictates what you can and can't say about your product?
It does.
Okay. Interesting.
But they're allowed to like have these infomercials of like commercials of like Ozempic and all this other stuff. That makes no sense.
If you listen carefully.
Yeah, and a 4-page side effect pamphlet you get.
Because of this, you might have a heart attack. If you look at this, make sure you do contact your doctor immediately. I hope RFK Jr. gets rid of that.
Yeah. Pharmaceutical ads.
I agree.
I really do. But you have an impeccable resume. One of the best resumes I've seen. Besides Tim Terrell. No. I mean, what was it like to speak at the United Nations, to speak there?
You know, I'll give you the quick version of that. So our company was selected as one of 7 Israeli companies that had the best cutting edge technologies. So as a result, during the United Nations in 2016, the CEOs of each of the 7 companies was expected to give a speech. And the event was called, I think it was Showcasing Israeli Technologies for the Benefit of African Nations. So they were trying to build their trade relations with Africa based upon the technologies of Israel. And Israel's very, inventive and creative in their technologies.
Really?
So the CEO at the time, I was a consultant for the company, for NanoVibronix. And our CEO was, to put it lightly, he was not a great public speaker. So he got up there to give his practice speech, and Danny Danone, who was the ambassador to the United Nations, called our biggest stockholder and said, if this is the guy that's going to be representing you, we can't do this. You're out. He said, give me 1 hour. He called me on Wednesday. He said, what are you doing tomorrow? I said, Nothing. I'm yours if you need me. He goes, you're giving a speech at the United Nations. So I said,
Is this in Sweden?
no, this is in New York during the General Assembly.
Okay.
And I said, what's the speech about? He said, I don't know. I said, how long is the speech? I don't know. How many people are going to be there? No idea. He goes, I'll give you the name of the conference off of the General Assembly, and you figure it out. So he told me what it was. It was about, introducing new technologies to Africa. So at the United Nations, the speech was in front of Benjamin Netanyahu, Danny Danon, who was the ambassador, 13 African presidents, and 880 delegates from the UN. So, a bit of a pucker event. So
were they all like sitting at their seats with the nation flag like next?
No, it was more of a kind of an auditorium. So I gave the speech, and the chairman of the board approached me outside of the conference, and he said, "You have to take the new CEO role." So at that point, I was really not intending to go to work for him. I was happy being a consultant for him. And he said, no, you have to take it. And
So you got promoted.
I got caught up in the moment, and I took it.
Fuck yeah. I
So,
like that.
he said job number one was to get the company to go public up on NASDAQ. So I was able to do that in the next year, rang the bell with my daughters at my side, rang the NASDAQ bell on Wall Street. And, in the interim, I mean, it was just a whirlwind. I was at the White House a couple of times. I went to the Knesset, which is the equivalent to the government in Israel. Met with their health minister. I mean, it's just been a whirlwind.
That sounds surreal.
It was.
What is it? Or is Israel? So with everything going on with Israel right now, is it hard to talk to your partners in Israel?
It's they're doing fine. The government has allowed them to work from home if they're nervous about coming into the office. We're only 20 miles from Hezbollah. It's the Lebanon border. So a little bit, there's a little nervousness there. But my last scheduled trip to go there was October 9th of last year. And you know what happened on October 7th? That was the attack.
Yeah.
So I didn't go. So the only limitation, freight comes out of there. It's business as usual. Israel's used to this. But the only thing that has been different is I can't get there.
Yeah. That's hopefully that changes in the near future.
I'm hoping.
Yeah. Dude, I'm like blown away right now. I mean, I say that a lot on the podcast, but I've never heard someone that got promoted on the spot to CEO to speak at the United Nations to get you guys your stock on the NASDAQ. So it's basically what it was for. What was that like? What was the feeling?
Honestly, it was surreal standing in front of the NASDAQ headquarters where we had just rung the bell. I had a couple of my really good friends on stage with me, a couple of employees, a couple of NASDAQ people. But as we're standing in the park right in front of NASDAQ on this 30-story marquee, they're flashing pictures, and to see my daughters up on this 30-story marquee was, you talk about surreal. That was surreal. And I mean, it was incredible. My son-in-law later on, in a cigar bar afterwards, as we're all celebrating, he looked at me and he said, you've now given me the mission. I know what I want to do. And he said, I am going to be ringing that bell.
Wow. Hopefully that works. Hopefully it did work. I don't know.
Well, he's on a great track. Man, the guy, if anybody can do it, he can do it.
You sound like a family man. So you have 2 daughters and a wife. How's your family life?
2 daughters that are the most amazing people I've ever met in my life. 1 granddaughter, son-in-law who's a rock star, and Denise, my partner, and she's amazing, and life is good.
That sounds pretty good for someone coming from a middle-class family, dictating your life to climb the ranks of the medical technology industry to become the CEO on the spot at the United Nations. That's a United Nations press conference. I mean, that's just unbelievable, man.
Yeah, that United Nations thing was probably the highlight of my career. Ringing the bell was, it's neck and neck.
What is it? What does that mean, ringing the bell?
So if you watch CNBC, the opening bell is rung. You're up on stage and you've got this little monitor in front of you, and they do a countdown to the opening day of trading and the open of trading. And then on the closing bell, which we did, you ring the bell to close the day of trading, but it's nationally televised, and it's your company name, your closest confidants are up on stage with you, and you literally ring the bell. I'll show you a video of it.
We can actually incorporate it into the podcast if you would like that.
It's it was filmed off of a TV, so it's nothing that's professionally done, but I can definitely send you some pictures.
That's amazing, man. That's good family, good things, and it seems like you like helping people, like giving back. You know, like you want to help people with the UTIs. You want to help people with pain. Like, how does that go into your life?
No doubt about it. And I spent 30 years in wound care. You mentioned wounds.
Yeah.
I launched a product called the VAC, the wound VAC. I don't know if you've ever seen it or heard about it.
I've definitely heard about it.
Yeah.
You launched that?
I launched it in 1996.
That's when I was born.
God, I hate you.
So what is that product?
Yeah.
It's a negative pressure wound device that, typically, all through time, doctors would slap stuff on the wound and they'd uncover it and they'd go, okay, well, nothing's happened. They'd slap more crap on it and cover it up, open it up in a week. Nothing's happened. This product, when a chronic wound won't heal, this product will heal it within days.
Wow.
And what it does is it's kind of a vacuum on the wound. It's vacuuming out all the excess fluids and the bacteria and drawing blood to the wound site. We brought it from $0 to $2 billion in revenue in a matter of I think 9 years.
Yeah, I mean, I saw that you're 25 years experience. Like you've generated over $500 million in sales.
That was, we went from, so I actually left the company and I went to work for Eastman Kodak when they had 73,000 employees. This is when they were huge. And about a month into it, I realized the most dangerous place in the world is not Afghanistan or Iran. It's standing between the front door of Eastman Kodak and the parking lot at 501 because people were running to their cars and they were there for their pensions. And I couldn't understand that mentality. And every company I've worked for, it's been more entrepreneurial oriented. And you did what you needed to do you may be there until 10 o'clock at night. And you're taking phone calls on the weekend. There is no rest. But Eastman Kodak was a bit of, it was a little comical because you'd see this horde of people and you just don't want to be standing between them and their car. So I ended up going back to KCI, the wound vac company. And I took a role as VP general manager over their smallest division. We were doing about $10 million a year in revenue. They had just added 30 people and sales declined. From the time that they added them until the time I came back, and they were frustrated. So I took it over in 2000.
Over.
How did you turn it around?
Well, I realized that the way they were conducting business for this segment of the business, which was home clinic and home and wound clinics, was the same way that they were conducting business on the acute care or hospital side. And everything had to be changed. So I changed everything. And I'll never forget, the CEO walked in my office and he said, "What did you do? What the hell are you doing?" And I said, "I will live and die by my decision."
So,
so I took it over at 10 million. We ended that year at 30 million. The following year we did 90 million.
Gee.
The following year we did 156 million. We made it to 500 million before he ever came back to me and said, "Okay, you were right." So, and that same guy is our chairman of the board today.
Where
NanoVibronix.
Where was this all based? Do the same thing, Tyler, Texas?
No, that was
Israel?
in San Antonio, Texas.
Okay.
So I commuted from Sunday night until Friday night for 2 years. It was hell, but it paid off.
I mean, you worked hard.
And like I said, the president of that company is now my chairman of the board. Wow. And there's a bond that will never be broken.
It's because you doubled down on your decision.
Yeah.
Got out of the trenches.
Yeah.
Oh, he was so mad.
What
He was so mad.
I mean, because this guy's probably got a lot of like balls, like what was he like when he found out that you are actually adding more revenue to the company?
Well, he's the smartest businessman I've ever worked with in my entire life. So I would be lying to you if I didn't tell you that when he walked out of my office that day with his red face, fists clenched, that I didn't have second thoughts. And I thought, man, I better be right. So it turned out, lucky for me, it turned out that I was right.
Yeah.
For people who are in, higher corporate positions, I feel like risk risk management is difficult for people to navigate, and especially for those of us who, aren't in an entrepreneurial type of setting. What kind of thought process when it comes to taking those risks that you go through to make those decisions to pull the trigger or not?
A great question. I've always had a plan B. So out of the corner of my eye, I always see that there's a window open for me to jump through, and hopefully it's not on the 10th floor. But, the bottom line is that you always have to have plan B. And if plan A is crashing and burning, entrepreneurial or not, you better have another way. Mm-hmm. And it's got to be thought through. You've got to have a plan in your head at least to enact plan B.
That's an interesting philosophy. A lot of people will say, let's jump right, head first into it, or, don't do it at all. But having a plan B just in case plan A doesn't work out, that's interesting. Max, what you were going to say?
I was going to say, so basically, our generation, my generation, is all about entrepreneurship. They want to sell merchandise, whatever they think they become a brand. So what I'm asking you is, what advice would you give to all those entrepreneurs out there that are listening to this?
I would say run as fast and hard as you can. But if you see a cliff in front of you, slow down and so you're not running off the cliff.
Reassess.
There's nobody's right 100% of the time, but momentum is key. It's not about what you made today or what you make tomorrow, but if the momentum is going in the right direction, you're like a poster child for this. When you and I were talking earlier, you had 130 followers the last time I talked to you.
Yeah.
That was a year ago. And now you're at 5,700.
Yeah.
That's, you talk about momentum. That's on steroids.
I'm very blessed for the people that listen to the podcast and for the people that come on to the podcast, because otherwise there wouldn't be a podcast. What we're looking for is people who face adversity, and it sounds like you had to face adversity when you took over that company. You're like, okay, well, either I'm driving this company into the ground or I'm going to excel them to the top, which you did.
It was definitely an adventure. It's all been an adventure.
Yeah. Your life's crazy, man. But let's slow it down. You're very successful, you seem very happy. You have 2 beautiful daughters. You got a son-in-law that's driven as hell, probably by you. What do you do to kick back your feet? I know you hang out at Fort Lauderdale. My dad said you have a place there. So explain what you like to do for fun now.
Well, your dad is part of it. It's what we call the River Rat Crew.
Yes. Yeah.
So all the folks who live on the river are part of one little sorority, fraternity, whatever you want to call it, and we all have a great time together. That's my escape. It's
just get on the river, listen
friends.
to some music.
But it's just being with good friends and just not having to think about the craziness of your day.
Do you go to Fort Lauderdale for the winter?
Fort Lauderdale is my legal home.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm legal down there, and I live there, not full time, but I don't own anything in Illinois. And
I think I have a reason. I think I know why. Wink, wink.
Yeah, no doubt. But, you know, I grew up here. I still have family here. So I'm still here occasionally.
But how does a CEO deal with stress? The stress of working your job as intense as it is.
I mean, especially medical.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
I don't know. I don't drink a lot, so that I can't.
Do you do yoga?
Deep breathing, maybe?
The gym,
The gym. Golf.
you know, and the minute you step out on the golf course, you know after the first hole whether the golf round is going to be more stressful than your day. But usually just the gym. You know.
You look like you're in good shape, man. Really good shape.
Man, I'm old.
Well, for being 18 in 1976, you do look great for that
Still got
for that fact.
Still got that left hook, probably.
Oh yeah.
You know, in one little side story from that 1976 fight. So I'm up in Springfield, Illinois, and you know they lay out kind of a chart of who you're going to fight. If you win this one, you fight this guy, and the guy that if I won the fight, the first fight, the guy that I was going to fight, his name was Ronaldo Snipes. Ronaldo Snipes became the first guy to knock down Larry Holmes in 1987. He was 2 seconds away from being the heavyweight champion of the world. Ronaldo Snipes is my closest friend in New York. And we still laugh about the fact that I tell him the best fight I ever lost was the first fight I ever fought to prevent fighting him, because he would have killed me. And we became best friends. You know,
What an origin story. I love that.
yeah.
Start of an era. That's awesome. Do you still hit the bag?
Oh God, no. I've had 4 broken hands. If I hit anything, you might see bone chips coming out of my hands.
So, I'm not gonna expect this answer to be answered, but they say that making your first million is the hardest. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, you know, my goal when I first got into business, it was around 1980, and my goal was by 1990 I wanted to have made my first $1 million, and I think I made it by 30,000. It's right there, and which, you know, it was a goal. But working for people, it's harder to meet that goal. You know, and again, in sales, earnings are unlimited, so it's easier to do in sales, but I actually did it. And I've adopted a policy that basically it's better to own a small piece of something big than a big piece of something small. So if, for instance, the wound vac company,
Yeah.
I had a small piece of the ownership of that company, which turned into a lot of money. Now, if I had a large piece of something that was very, very small, it would have turned into nothing.
Yeah.
Or next to nothing. So, you know, right now you don't get rich doing the 9 to 5. You've got to do the 9 to 5 to prove yourself, to be able to interview and justifiably interview and get the job for the next step up. But stock options, you can make a lot of money. And I would encourage everybody to just follow a path that, you know, has that in mind. It's like a small part of something big can turn into something really significant.
Can you elaborate on that? Because we've had business moguls on the podcast, and some of them have the opinion of, don't work the 9 to 5. You'll never get rich doing the 9 to 5.
Be a W2er. That's what they say.
Yeah, no W2ers.
It's like your Gen Pop. Gen population.
Shout out, John.
Yeah.
But my question is, how do you climb the ladder? How do you follow that path if you're getting into the business as, salaried on 9 to 5? How do you make that jump to higher management?
So, the way to get promoted is to be in something that's quantifiable. So if you're judged based upon, I hate to throw out a specific job in a company, but let's just say human resources. Where is that quantifiable? How many people you bring on board, or what is the value to the company? So if you're trying to elevate yourself, what value do you bring to a company, and how can it be quantified? So sales is obviously the best way to do that. Product development is another way to do that. Business planning, M&A, things like that. But
where do people get stuck?
Great question.
Where do they get stuck? I think it's. I have a philosophy about that.
Yeah.
So think about human nature instincts. Human nature instincts are what we all have, right?
Yeah.
We're generally lazy. We don't eat well. We eat what's good and not what's good for you.
Yeah.
We want the quick fix. We want
quick cash,
immediate gratification.
Yeah.
All of those human nature instincts are in all of us. The people who succeed are the 5% that fight those human nature instincts and win. Meaning that if human nature is telling you that, lazy is the way to go, which all of us are innately lazy, and therefore, if you succumb to the laziness, you're going to be part of the 95%. You're never going to be in that 5% elite. So if you can beat your human nature instincts, I would encourage everybody to sit back and make a list of what drives them. What drives them? What are your driving human nature instincts? What are your driving forces? And, maybe people won't admit that they're lazy. But
the truth hurts. Sometimes, it really does. But I feel like my generation has gotten more lazier than ever. And I can't imagine if you had our technology, our access to technology, how easy it would be for you to make money in a business.
I've got a great story. My daughter, my 32-year-old daughter, Lindsay, we've got a good friend in the city of Chicago who's very prominent, knows everybody, and she was invited to dinner one night, and she sat next to this billionaire. And he had just sold a staffing business for $800 million, something like that. And she had a conversation with him. And she took his business card, and she went home, and she wrote a note. She wrote a handwritten card to him. Appreciated your insights. Really enjoyed dinner. Really enjoyed the conversation with you, blah, blah, blah. Sent that note to him. He called her and he's like, nobody has done that. in 15 years for me.
Wow.
So if you think about the human nature aspect of it, somebody might take that business card and text him, hey, nice to meet you.
Yes.
You know what? She took the extra step, wrote the card. I tell this story to so many young kids that
That's amazing.
she stood out.
Yeah.
She was different. Today, he would know who she is.
Wow.
This billionaire in Houston, Texas would know who she is.
That's great advice. Standing out.
Stand out, exactly. Don't do what the status quo is. You know,
Be
don't
different, right?
be different.
Another great example is my older daughter went to apply for a sales job, and she told me at about 9 o'clock at night, you know, I've got an interview tomorrow morning at 10, and she said, you know, any advice that you can give me? And I said, well, do you have your business plan ready? And she said, what are you talking about? And I said, well, your business plan. Do you not have a business plan to walk into the interview with? She said, well, it's a 6-person interview. It's a committee interview. And I said, you don't have 6 copies of your business plan to hand to each one of the interviewers? And she's like, well, nobody does that. And I said, exactly. Nobody does that. So
You
between 9 p.m. and 9 a.m. the next morning, she and I worked on a business plan together. She got a business plan done, made 6 copies. We choreographed it. She said, you know, I'm right out of college. Not a lot on my resume, so I want to share my business plan with you. And they all sat back in their seats and they went, wow. Wow. So
You're like Yoda.
she was so she was supposed to hear from them. It was, you know, like 20 people interviewing, and she said that she called me after the interview and she said it went really well.
Wow.
She said, I'll know this afternoon whether I'm going to make it to the next round. She got the call that afternoon. And the lady said, I have good news and bad news. She goes, what do you want to hear first? And she goes, give me the bad news. She goes, the bad news is you didn't make it to the second round. And she goes, okay, what's the good news? She goes, well, we canceled the second round. We were offering you the job.
Wow.
So fast forward, my second daughter gets her first sales interview. So she tells me about it. She goes, I got an interview tomorrow. And I said, do you have your business plan done? She goes, oh, my sister already helped me with it.
Wow.
She got the job that day before she walked out the door. She said, they looked at her and they said, we've interviewed 10 people. Nobody had a business plan. She goes, they were so impressed, they didn't even open it. They just knew that she had the piece of paper.
Wow.
And it was about a 5-page business plan with her personal mission and her development plan and, you know, things that I've taught my older daughter that were all incorporated into this. She got the job that day.
It's amazing.
So what I would tell your listeners, anybody coming out of college, man, if you don't have a business plan walking into an interview, you lose.
Do your due diligence.
Do your homework.
Everybody,
Yeah.
do it. And for you, it looks like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree because you used to knock people out in the first round.
Oh, wow.
I gotta ask you a question, man. This is gonna be a big one. But when you wake up in the morning, do you think you have fulfilled your purpose in life?
No, God, no. No.
There's
No,
more to
the-
come.
The next The next stage is going to be mentoring kids.
Wow.
Yeah. And exactly that story. I've taken a lot of my daughter's friends and some family members and just friends' kids that are coming out of college. And, college, great. You get the piece of paper. What did they tell you about getting a job?
Yeah, exactly. Tell us about college, Mr. Murphy. Tell us what you think about college.
Please.
So, you go to college and you get that piece of paper and, you're good to go. And then they shoo you out. They cashed your last check and you're good to go, right? Well, they never told you how to get a job.
They never told you how to get a job.
And
she's part of this.
They also never told you that your first job leads to your second job, and it's likely going to be in the same category of job that you got the first time. So how do you get the job that you want? And how do you what's your vision for 20, 30 years from now? Where do you want to be? Do you want to be in the medical industry? Do you want to be in the financial markets? Where do you want to be? Because my dad's advice of becoming a McDonald's manager would have, today I'd be maybe running a Chick-fil-A. Right?
They're closed on Sunday. Sorry.
That's a plus.
I would at least get one day off. So, but it's that old analogy. If you're leaving on a plane from LA and you're heading to New York, and your plane leaves just 2 degrees to the right, to the south, you're going to end up in Miami.
Wow.
So think about that. You get on that plane, make sure that it's facing the right direction for where you want to land.
New York. Wow. Absolutely amazing.
So,
and would you urge people to read books?
Business books, sales books.
I haven't read a book for 20 years.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Different strokes for folks. But it's been amazing having you on. You have stories for days. I'm so happy you came on, Brian. And
I'm so happy to be here. Anything I can do to support you.
Yeah, and this one's going to be a good one, man. It is. I think a lot of people are going to get a lot of insight, a lot of like background knowledge of like how it was in the past and how it is in the future, how gluttonous and lucky we are compared to you, who comes from a middle-class family and ends up making his first $1 million after like a decade, right? It took you a decade?
Yeah.
1980 to 1990.
Yeah.
Took you a decade. And you had grit, you had determination, and you did it, man. You did it.
There's a couple of things that I would change, but in general, I think I would have stayed the course. I'd repeat it.
I'm inspired by you, and I'm gonna make sure I keep that in my notes. I am gonna continue to read books, but
just make sure that when you leave LA, you're heading in the right direction.
Absolutely.
LA, we're not going to Miami, we're going to New York. All right, so give that left punch, Ryan. There's camera one. Tell the people what you got coming. You said you're going to be a mentor?
I would love to be.
Well, you would be a great mentor. For everybody out there, like this freaking episode.
This is a great episode. I've had so much fun.
Yeah. Comment what you think about
Also, we can tell when you're not subscribed, so subscribe.
Comment Comment what you think about Big Pharma. Comment what you think about the FDA turning down this amazing opportunity for people to not have a urinary tract infections with UroShield. Comment. Turn that notification bell on so you can always see when the next podcast comes out, Brian. It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure's all mine.
Yeah, man. And I'm paralyzed from the neck down, breathing through a machine, but that doesn't stop me from following my dreams and doing what I love to do. I don't got an excuse, and neither should you. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Keep it bogus, a head on a swivel, looking out for the locust. I'm on 10 toes, trying to top my opponents. Am I the next best thing? Well, I think I'm the closest. Alright, word. That's everything, I think. You trying to go outside now, though?